right here. Rian's got a new job. I promised I'd stop by.
That's a good reason.
That battered silver Chevy pickup wasn't just transportation. It was a calculated symbol of suicidal depression that studio executives desperately tried to replace. What started as a production assistant's personal truck became an action cinema icon that survived 4 films, spawned countless imitators, then mysteriously vanished from Warner Brothers storage. The secrets behind Riggs' ride will shatter everything you thought you knew. Number 20. The production bought Riggs' truck from a crew member for only $3,000 after failing to find a suitable rental. Here's something that'll blow your mind right out the gate. Director Richard Donner spent 2 weeks searching Los Angeles rental houses for the perfect beat-up pickup truck before production assistant Tom McCarthy casually mentioned his personal 1986 Chevrolet CK 10 pickup was available for $3,000. Donner inspected McCarthy's silver truck in the Warner Brothers parking lot and immediately recognized its authenticity. The faded paint, minor dents, and worn interior perfectly captured a depressed cop's indifference to material possessions. McCarthy had purchased the truck new 18 months earlier, but heavy commuting and minimal maintenance had already given it a lived-in appearance that costume designer Marilyn Vance called emotionally perfect for the character. The production accountants questioned buying a crew member's personal vehicle instead of renting, but Donner argued ownership provided flexibility for modifications and eliminated expensive daily rental fees over the 4-month shooting schedule. McCarthy received his $3,000 plus a production bonus and immediately used the money for a down payment on a newer truck. Studio executives visiting the Los Angeles location initially thought the truck belonged to a crew member who'd parked in the wrong spot. Number 19. Mel Gibson specifically requested the truck remain dirty and dented throughout filming to reflect Riggs' mental state. Moving on to something even more revealing. Mel Gibson took one look at the truck during pre-production and explicitly told the prop department never to wash or repair it, insisting the vehicle's neglected condition was essential to portraying Riggs' suicidal depression and complete disregard for conventional life. Gibson argued that a cop contemplating suicide wouldn't care about vehicle maintenance, washing, or cosmetic damage, making the truck's deteriorating appearance a visual metaphor for Riggs' deteriorating mental health. Production designer J. Michael Riva initially suggested cleaning the truck for continuity purposes, but Gibson personally vetoed the idea, explaining that any improvement would undermine his character's psychological authenticity. During the 4-month shoot, the truck accumulated additional dirt, scratches, and minor damage that Gibson insisted be preserved rather than repaired between shooting days. Continuity supervisor documented every new dent and scrape to maintain consistency, essentially creating a timeline of the vehicle's worsening condition that paralleled Riggs' emotional journey. Gibson's commitment to this detail extended to refusing any seat covers or comfort modifications during long shooting days, even though he spent hours sitting in the vehicle. Co-star Danny Glover later revealed that Gibson's insistence on the truck's authentic neglect helped him understand Riggs' character depth beyond the screenplay's explicit descriptions. Number 18. The hero truck had 2 identical stunt doubles built from matching Chevrolet pickups found in junkyards. And get this, while the hero truck cost $3,000, the production spent over $14,000 acquiring and modifying 2 identical stunt doubles sourced from Southern California junkyards to match every dent and scratch. Transportation coordinator George Barris personally searched salvage yards throughout Los Angeles and Orange County, eventually finding 2 1986 Chevy CK10s with similar mileage and wear patterns. Barris photographed the hero truck from every angle, creating detailed documentation that guided the stunt team's weathering process to replicate specific damage patterns. Each duplicate required precise color matching, because the hero truck's silver paint had faded unpredictably from sun exposure, forcing the paint department to create custom mixing formulas. One stunt truck received reinforced suspension and upgraded brakes for high-speed chase sequences, while the other remained mechanically stock for close proximity driving shots and potential crash work. Director Richard Donner obsessed over continuity, personally inspecting each duplicate before approving it for filming, once rejecting a stunt truck because a door dent was 3 inches too high. The insurance company mandated these backups after learning the hero truck's mechanical condition, refusing coverage unless adequate redundancy existed throughout the production schedule. Number 17. Warner Brothers. Executives wanted to replace the truck with a Ford Bronco to appeal to younger demographics. But here's the kicker that nobody talks about. Warner Brothers marketing executives pushed aggressively to replace the Chevy pickup with a Ford Bronco, arguing that younger audiences associated Broncos with adventure and masculinity, while pickup trucks suggested rural poverty and working-class struggle. Studio marketing director Michael Tadros presented research showing that action heroes drove SUVs or sports cars, not basic work trucks, and worried the Chevy would make Riggs appear financially unsuccessful rather than rebelliously independent. Director Richard Donner fought this suggestion for 3 weeks, arguing that the truck's utilitarian simplicity was precisely the point. Riggs didn't care about image or status, only functionality and survival. Screenwriter Shane Black supported Donner's position, explaining that the truck represented Riggs' military special forces background, where practical vehicles mattered more than flashy ones. The debate escalated to Warner Brothers president Terry Semel, who ultimately sided with Donner after test audiences responded positively to the truck during early footage screenings. Ironically, after Lethal Weapon's success, basic pickup trucks experienced a surge in popularity among young urban buyers who wanted to emulate Riggs' anti-establishment aesthetic. This marketing battle established an important precedent for filmmakers defending creative choices against studio demographic research and focus group data. Number 16. The truck's engine was secretly upgraded to a high-performance 305 V8 for reliability. During filming Chevy engine, and speaking of secrets, here's something that'll shock gearheads everywhere. While the truck appeared to be a standard work vehicle, transportation coordinator George Barris secretly installed a rebuilt 305 cubic inch V8 engine, producing 240 horsepower for reliability during the demanding 4-month shooting schedule. The original engine was a tired 230 cubic inch inline 6 that ran poorly and couldn't maintain highway speeds consistently, completely inadequate for the repeated takes and continuous operation required by production. Barris performed the engine swap in just 5 days, carefully preserving the stock air cleaner and valve covers to maintain the vehicle's worn appearance while dramatically improving performance and reliability. The upgraded power plant allowed the truck to keep pace with modern Los Angeles traffic on freeways without constantly overheating or breaking down between takes, which would have cost thousands in production delays. Mel Gibson never knew about the engine swap until a magazine interview years later, assuming the truck's reliable performance was simply good maintenance and proper driving technique. The sound department recorded authentic struggling engine noises from an actual tired 6-cylinder Chevy, and dubbed them over footage to maintain the illusion of a barely running vehicle. Only after the film's theatrical release did Barris reveal the modification in automotive trade publications. Number 15. The truck's bed contained real police equipment that Mel Gibson personally selected from an LAPD surplus sale, moving on to authenticity that went beyond the screenplay. Mel Gibson spent an afternoon at an LAPD surplus equipment sale personally selecting real police gear to populate the truck's bed, including road flares, evidence bags, a broken shotgun case, and various tools that never appear in close-up but added legitimate detail. Gibson purchased approximately $200 worth of actual used police equipment, insisting that even background details needed authenticity, because actors draw confidence from genuine props even when cameras don't focus on them. Production designer J. Michael Riva initially questioned this expense for items that wouldn't be visible in shots, but Gibson explained that knowing real equipment was present helped him inhabit Riggs' world more completely. The prop department cataloged Gibson's purchases as actor-provided research materials and secured them in the truck bed throughout filming to maintain consistency. Several items showed genuine wear from actual police use, including oil stains and scratched paint that added unscripted realism whenever the truck bed appeared on camera. Behind-the-scenes photographs show Gibson frequently examining and handling these items between takes, using them as tactile connections to his character's law enforcement background. This dedication to off-screen authenticity demonstrated how committed actors create complete character worlds that extend beyond what audiences see, enhancing performance through environmental immersion. Number 14. The famous trailer. Home scene required. Building a reinforced platform. Because the truck couldn't support the trailer's weight and get this engineering challenge. The iconic scene showing Riggs living in an Airstream trailer parked next to his truck required constructing a hidden reinforced steel platform because the Chevy's suspension couldn't support the trailer's 7,000-pound weight without collapsing completely. Production designer J. Michael Riva discovered this problem during location scouting when attempting to position the trailer and truck together resulted in the pickup's rear suspension compressing 4 inches, creating an obviously unnatural appearance. The construction crew built a concealed platform from steel I-beams buried 18 inches underground, creating a level surface that invisibly supported the trailer's weight while allowing the truck to sit naturally beside it. This platform cost $8,000 to construct and required 3 days of work, effectively doubling the location budget for Riggs's trailer home exterior shots. Director Richard Donner insisted the truck appear functional and mobile rather than permanently parked, requiring the platform be designed for quick truck removal during driving scenes. The construction department painted the platform's visible edges to match surrounding dirt and scattered debris across it, to blend seamlessly with the environment. Test audiences never suspected the elaborate engineering beneath what appeared to be a simple parking arrangement, proving that invisible production design often requires the most complex and expensive solutions. Number 13. Mel Gibson kept the truck's original registration papers as a personal memento after filming Wrapped. But here's something touching that reveals Gibson's connection to the character. After principal photography concluded, Gibson asked director Richard Donner if he could keep the truck's original California registration papers as a memento, making them one of the only props he retained from the production. The registration showed the truck had been owned by production assistant Tom McCarthy, purchased in 1985, and accumulated 23,000 miles before Warner Brothers acquired it for filming. Gibson had the registration papers framed alongside a production still of himself in the truck, displaying them in his home office throughout the late 1980s. In subsequent interviews, Gibson mentioned the registration multiple times, calling it his connection to Riggs's reality, and explaining how owning a piece of the truck's authentic history helped him maintain the character through 3 sequels. The document represented more than just paperwork. It symbolized the truck's genuine working-class origins that perfectly matched Riggs' character, despite being a Hollywood production. Co-star Danny Glover revealed that Gibson would show the framed registration to visiting friends, explaining how the real truck from a real crew member grounded his performance in authenticity. This small detail demonstrates how actors create lasting connections to characters through seemingly mundane objects that carry emotional significance long after filming ends. Number 12. The truck's tailgate featured a dent pattern that changed between the first and second films due to replacement. And speaking of continuity, here's a detail that drives film students crazy. The truck's tailgate clearly shows different dent patterns between Lethal Weapon and Lethal Weapon 2, revealing that the hero truck's original tailgate was replaced sometime between productions for reasons never officially documented. Sharp-eyed viewers noticed the first film shows a large rectangular dent on the driver's side of the tailgate, while the sequel features a smaller circular dent in approximately the same location. Script supervisor Dusty Kay documented this inconsistency in her production notes, warning editors that the changed tailgate was noticeable in side-by-side comparisons. But director Richard Donner decided audiences wouldn't scrutinize such minor details between films. The original tailgate likely suffered unrepairable damage during storage or subsequent use, forcing transportation coordinator George Barris to source a replacement from a salvage yard. The replacement tailgate came from a different 1986 Chevy pickup with its own unique damage pattern that Barris attempted to modify for continuity, but couldn't perfectly replicate. Despite this error appearing in both theatrical releases, test audiences never mentioned the changing tailgate in feedback forms, validating Donner's decision to prioritize storytelling over perfect vehicle continuity across separate productions. Number 11. The truck survived all 4 films. despite being written into dangerous scenes that should have destroyed it. Season 4 truck, but here's the kicker that nobody talks about. Despite appearing in increasingly dangerous situations across all 4 Lethal Weapon films, the hero truck miraculously survived production without suffering catastrophic damage that would have required complete replacement rather than repair. The truck endured explosions, high-speed chases, gunfire, and various stunts that typically destroy picture vehicles. Yet, transportation teams managed to preserve and repair it through increasingly creative mechanical interventions. By Lethal Weapon 4, the original hero truck had accumulated so much authentic battle damage that the prop department actively preserved each new dent and scratch as character development for the vehicle itself. Transportation coordinator George Barris performed 3 major mechanical overhauls across the franchise, replacing the transmission twice, the rear differential once, and countless suspension components while maintaining the exterior's progressively deteriorating appearance. The truck's survival became a point of pride among the transportation crew, who viewed keeping it operational as a personal challenge that demonstrated their professional skill. Insurance adjusters reviewing the vehicle before each sequel expressed amazement it remained functional given the documented punishment from previous films. This longevity transformed the truck from disposable prop into irreplaceable character, with Warner Brothers eventually declaring it too valuable to risk in truly dangerous stunts. Number 10. The truck's interior smelled so bad from accumulated film equipment that crew members refused to ride in it, moving on to something absolutely disgusting. By the 3rd week of filming, the truck's interior developed such a powerful odor from accumulated film equipment, spilled coffee, fast food wrappers, and trapped heat that crew members actively refused assignment to any scene requiring them to ride inside the vehicle. The smell resulted from Mel Gibson's insistence on authentic deterioration, combined with Southern California's summer heat-cooking organic matter trapped in the cab's carpet and upholstery. Production assistants reported the odor as overwhelming, describing it as a mixture of stale coffee, spoiled food, sweaty upholstery, and chemical off-gassing from aging vinyl dashboard components. Assistant Director Herb Gaines initially dismissed complaints as exaggeration, until personally inspecting the truck and immediately ordering the windows remain open between takes for ventilation. The odor became so notorious that Transportation Coordinator George Barris attempted a deep cleaning, but Mel Gibson personally stopped him, arguing the authentic smell helped him inhabit Riggs's depressed mindset. Several crew members developed headaches after extended exposure in the confined cab during dialogue scenes. The smell persisted throughout production, despite multiple attempts at odor elimination using air fresheners, which Gibson removed every time they appeared. This commitment to sensory authenticity demonstrated how method acting extends beyond visible performance into environmental immersion that affects everyone on set. Number 9. Warner Brothers lost. The original hero truck, after Lethal Weapon 4 and its current location, remains unknown, and get this mystery that haunts collectors. After Lethal Weapon 4 wrapped in 1998, Warner Brothers transported the hero truck to their Burbank storage facility where it mysteriously disappeared, and despite extensive searches and investigations, its current whereabouts remain completely unknown. Studio records show the truck was checked into storage lot 7 on July 23, 1998, but when transportation coordinators attempted to retrieve it for a potential 5th film in 2003, the vehicle had vanished without documentation. Warner Brothers' internal investigation discovered multiple administrative errors, including misplaced paperwork, an unauthorized lot reorganization, and possible theft by studio employees with access to storage facilities. The studio questioned dozens of employees, reviewed security footage that proved inconclusive, and searched every Warner Brothers facility nationwide, finding no trace of the truck. Several theories emerged, including theft by a collector, accidental crushing during lot clearing, or undocumented sale to a private buyer. The loss represented both financial embarrassment and cultural tragedy, as the truck had become an irreplaceable piece of action. Cinema history worth potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. Automotive historians and Lethal Weapon fans continue searching for the hero truck, hoping it resurfaces at auctions or private collections. But 2 decades later, it remains one of Hollywood's most famous missing vehicles. Number 8. Mel Gibson personally performed a dangerous stunt, where he hung from the truck bed while it drove at 40 miles per hour. But here's something that'll surprise you. Mel Gibson insisted on personally performing a dangerous stunt, where he hung from the truck's open tailgate while it drove 40 miles per hour down a Los Angeles street, overruling both the stunt coordinator's objections and insurance company restrictions. The scene required Riggs to leap onto the moving truck's bed while pursuing a suspect, then hang precariously from the tailgate as the vehicle accelerated through traffic. Stunt coordinator Bobby Bass designed the sequence for stunt double Gary Combs, complete with hidden safety cables and protective padding. But Gibson argued that close-up shots required his actual face visible during the action. Director Richard Donner initially supported Bass's safety concerns, but Gibson trained for 3 days learning proper falling techniques and convinced everyone he could execute the stunt safely. The insurance company reluctantly approved Gibson's participation only after he signed additional liability waivers and agreed to rehearse the sequence 15 times at reduced speeds. The actual stunt required 5 takes to capture from multiple angles, with Gibson genuinely hanging from the tailgate at increasing speeds until achieving the desired dramatic effect. The final shot shows Gibson's real face during the dangerous moment, adding authentic intensity that stunt doubles couldn't replicate despite their superior technical skills. Number 7. The truck's suspension was deliberately softened to create an exaggerated bouncing effect that became visually iconic. And speaking of visual authenticity, here's craftsmanship that created an iconic look. Transportation coordinator George Barris deliberately softened the truck's suspension by removing 1 leaf from each rear spring pack and reducing shock absorber pressure, creating an exaggerated bouncing effect that became visually synonymous with Riggs' character. Barris discovered during early test drives that the stock suspension made the truck look too stable and controlled, lacking the worn-out character that director Richard Donner wanted for Riggs' vehicle. The modified suspension caused the truck to bounce noticeably over road irregularities, creating visual movement that suggested mechanical deterioration and neglect even during smooth driving scenes. This exaggerated motion became so distinctive that automotive journalists specifically mentioned the truck's distinctive bounce in reviews, noting how it reinforced Riggs' barely held together psychological state. The softened suspension required careful driving technique from both Gibson and stunt drivers to prevent loss of control during high-speed sequences, as the reduced stability created genuine handling challenges. Barris monitored the modified suspension throughout production, occasionally adjusting spring tension when the bouncing became excessive enough to affect camera framing or actor comfort. This calculated modification demonstrated how transportation departments manipulate mechanical characteristics to create visual metaphors that enhance character development through subtle mechanical performance rather than obvious cosmetic alterations. Number 6. The production used 4 different steering wheels throughout filming, after Gibson kept breaking them during intense scenes. But here's the kicker that reveals Gibson's physical intensity. The production replaced the truck's steering wheel 4 separate times after Mel Gibson repeatedly damaged them during emotionally intense scenes where he gripped and wrenched the wheel with excessive force. Gibson's method-acting approach meant he genuinely experienced Riggs' rage and frustration during dramatic moments, resulting in cracked steering wheel cores and torn vinyl wrapping from the physical violence of his performance. The original steering wheel lasted only 2 weeks before transportation coordinator George Barris noticed stress fractures in the plastic core, where Gibson's hands consistently gripped during aggressive driving scenes. Barris sourced 3 replacement steering wheels from Chevrolet dealerships. Stockpiling them after recognizing Gibson's performance style would continue destroying them throughout production. The prop department briefly considered installing a reinforced aftermarket steering wheel disguised to look stock, but director Richard Donner rejected this idea, preferring to simply replace standard wheels as Gibson destroyed them. Each damaged wheel was cataloged and stored as evidence of Gibson's intense performance commitment, with production assistants joking that his steering wheel destruction represented the film's real special effects budget. This pattern of destruction continued through all 4 Lethal Weapon films, with transportation departments eventually budgeting for multiple replacement steering wheels as standard operating procedure whenever Gibson performed driving scenes. Number 5. The truck appeared in more scenes than originally written because test audiences connected with it, emotionally moving on to the audience impact that changed the final edit. Director Richard Donner added 17 additional truck scenes during reshoots after test audiences specifically mentioned connecting emotionally with the vehicle as a symbol of Riggs's isolation and depression. The original screenplay featured the truck in only 12 scenes, treating it as basic transportation without narrative significance. But early screening feedback revealed viewers interpreted the beat-up vehicle as visual shorthand for Riggs's suicidal mindset. Focus group participants described feeling worried about the character every time they saw the neglected truck, suggesting the vehicle communicated psychological distress more effectively than dialogue alone. Donner recognized this unexpected emotional resonance and commissioned screenwriter Shane Black to write additional scenes featuring the truck, including quiet moments of Riggs sitting alone in the cab that weren't in the original script. These additions required recalling Mel Gibson for 2 days of pickup photography, 3 months after principal photography wrapped, specifically to capture intimate character moments inside the vehicle. The supplemental truck footage cost approximately $80,000 in production expenses, but significantly deepened the film's emotional impact, according to subsequent test screenings. This creative decision demonstrated how filmmakers must remain flexible during post-production, allowing audience feedback to guide final edits even when deviating from original plans. Number 4. One of the stunt trucks was destroyed during the explosive climax and required complete replacement for the sequels. And get this tragedy. One of the 2 stunt duplicate trucks was completely destroyed during the explosive climax when special effects coordinator Chuck Gaspar miscalculated blast radius, resulting in catastrophic frame damage that rendered the vehicle irreparable beyond any practical restoration. The explosion scene required precise pyrotechnic placement near the truck without causing actual damage, but unexpected wind conditions shifted the blast pattern, sending debris directly into the truck's driver's side at high velocity. The impact buckled the frame, shattered windows, punctured the fuel tank, and destroyed suspension components throughout the left side, effectively totaling the vehicle despite transportation coordinator George Barris's desperate attempts to salvage usable parts. Insurance covered the vehicle's declared value of $7,000, but replacing it would require weeks of sourcing, purchasing, and weathering a new duplicate that perfectly matched the surviving trucks. Barris scrambled to find another 1986 Chevy CK10 with similar mileage and condition, eventually locating one in San Diego that required extensive modification and artificial aging before it matched the hero truck. Director Richard Donner was furious about losing a stunt vehicle so close to production's end, implementing stricter safety protocols for pyrotechnic work near picture vehicles. The destroyed truck's carcass sat in a studio salvage yard for 6 months before being sold for scrap metal. Number 3. Mel Gibson learned to drive manual transmission, specifically for this role because the truck had a 4-speed manual. But here's something that reveals Gibson's dedication to authenticity. Mel Gibson had never driven a manual transmission vehicle before Lethal Weapon, forcing him to take intensive driving lessons specifically to operate the truck's 4-speed manual transmission convincingly on camera. Gibson grew up in Australia, driving automatic transmission vehicles exclusively, and continued this pattern throughout his early Hollywood career, never encountering a situation requiring manual transmission skills. When he discovered during pre-production that Riggs's truck featured a manual transmission, Gibson immediately hired professional driving instructor Terry Leonard to teach him proper clutch control, gear shifting, and smooth acceleration techniques. Gibson practiced for 2 weeks in the studio parking lot, learning to shift smoothly while delivering dialogue and maintaining character, a multitasking challenge that initially frustrated him significantly. Director Richard Donner considered replacing the transmission with an automatic for Gibson's comfort, but Gibson refused, insisting Riggs would absolutely drive a manual truck, and that learning the skill was his responsibility as an actor. The intensive training paid off in the final film, where Gibson shifts gears naturally and convincingly throughout driving scenes without drawing attention to the mechanical process. This commitment to learning new skills for character authenticity became a Gibson trademark throughout his career, influencing his approach to subsequent physically demanding roles. Number 2. The trucks. Though current market value is estimated between $250,000 and $400,000, if ever located. And speaking of value, here's something current that'll blow your mind. If Warner Brothers' missing hero truck were located today, automotive appraisers estimate its value between $250,000 and $400,000, based on recent sales of comparable screen-used vehicles and the Lethal Weapon franchise's enduring cultural impact. The truck's value derives entirely from its authenticated screen-use provenance across 4 blockbuster films, rather than any inherent mechanical worth, as identical non-film trucks typically sell for under $5,000 in similar condition. Celebrity vehicle auction specialist Donna Meekum stated publicly that the Lethal Weapon truck would command premium pricing, exceeding even more exotic movie cars, because it represents blue-collar authenticity that resonates with broader collector demographics than luxury vehicles. Insurance appraisers reviewing the truck before its disappearance valued it at only $35,000, demonstrating how dramatically screen-used vehicle values have appreciated over the past 2 decades. Several private collectors have offered substantial rewards for information leading to the truck's recovery, with one anonymous bidder publicly pledging $100,000 just for verified location information. The missing truck has achieved legendary status among Hollywood memorabilia collectors, comparable to lost props from iconic franchises that periodically resurface at estate sales decades after disappearing. This valuation demonstrates how authentic movie vehicles transcend transportation, becoming cultural artifacts worth more than new luxury cars. Number 1. Mel Gibson attempted to purchase the truck multiple times, but Warner Brothers refused every offer, including 6 figures. But here's the most shocking revelation that nobody talks about. Mel Gibson made repeated attempts to personally purchase the hero truck across all 4 films, eventually offering Warner Brothers $150,000 cash after Lethal Weapon 4 wrapped, but studio executives rejected every offer, citing the vehicle's irreplaceable promotional and archival value. Gibson first tried buying the truck immediately after the original film's theatrical success in 1987, offering $25,000, but Warner Brothers refused, planning to use it for sequel promotions. After Lethal Weapon 2, Gibson increased his offer to $50,000, arguing that owning the actual truck would help him maintain character continuity across future sequels, but studio accountants classified it as appreciating studio property. Following Lethal Weapon 3, Gibson offered $75,000, emphasizing his emotional connection to the vehicle and desire to preserve it permanently. But Warner Brothers again declined. His final 6-figure offer after Lethal Weapon 4 represented genuine frustration that the studio wouldn't sell him something he'd made culturally significant through his performance. Gibson reportedly remained bitter about these rejections for years, mentioning in multiple interviews that owning Riggs's actual truck would have been more personally meaningful than any award or recognition. The refusals proved darkly ironic when Warner Brothers subsequently lost the truck entirely, denying everyone the chance to preserve this irreplaceable piece of action cinema history. From $3,000 crew vehicle to missing Hollywood legend, Riggs's battered Chevy proved that authenticity trumps glamour every single time. That silver pickup became a character itself, representing everything Lethal Weapon stood for: real pain, genuine struggle, working-class grit over Hollywood polish. Which fact shocked you most? Drop it in the comments and hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into action cinema's most legendary vehicles. Keep it real, and remember, it's just been revoked.